fans have been saying the past few weeks, Grace, why are you so difficult when it comes to DC? Why do you hold them to such high standards yet give Marvel a free pass? Well, buckle up, baby, because now it's Marvel's turn. I'm just reporting on what's happening. And while it's not as bad as what's going on with DC right now, we'll talk about Black Adam in its fourth week. Not horrible, but not good. But Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I think, it's fine, but I think it's a crack in the stronghold of Marvel. And Kevin Feige can ignore these cracks at his own risk. I hear that he's not ignoring them. He's aware, but he doesn't know how to patch them up. And there are significant script issues with several of the upcoming Marvel projects that have yet to be fixed. The scripts are still a mess. We'll see what happens. But Black Panther Wakanda Forever, in my opinion, is not a mess. It's a very good movie. But it's a very good movie in a sea of mediocrity recently. I told you, it's Marvel's turn. All right, so hello and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where the Marvel machine continues to hold together and churned out another bundle of cash, with Black Panther Wakanda Forever performing right in line with Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness and Thor Love and Thunder, the other two MCU films this year. So yeah, the MCU might be sputtering and in some places held together with rubber bands at this point, but Kevin Feige, it seems, doesn't need to whack it with a wrench just yet, especially because if he does, it could fall apart instead of being fixed, and at least it's still churning out cash. But occasionally, this thing's supposed to spit out a breakout hit, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever was supposed to be that breakout hit this year. So was Multiverse of Madness. Will Black Panther Wakanda Forever get as tantalizingly close to $1 billion but not get Multiverse of Madness should have made $1 billion. It didn't. Pandemic, not really a great movie. But Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I think, is far enough along at this point, in the movie going space, that it really has no excuse not to get to $1 billion. Besides quality and what's going on with Marvel. But so it's a very interesting situation. I'm curious to hear your thoughts down below. Try to be nice and constructive, because I know that Marvel fans will be very, very protective and DC fans will smell blood in the water. The box office debut for Black Panther Wakanda Forever is noticeably lower than the first Black Panther. And this Rotten Tomatoes score, what the heck is that? Luckily, Joker's Rotten Tomatoes score didn't hurt its Oscar chances, but this does create an opening for James Cameron's friendly fire from fellow Disney flick Avatar: The Way of Water. Because I think only one other major blockbuster is going to get nominated for Best Picture, along with shoo-in Top Gun Maverick. Who'd ever thought that would happen, that would be the shoo-in? But it is. And overseas, Black Panther Wakanda Forever is pacing 5% behind the original. It's just 5%, but it's a sequel. It's a very good sequel. Many of us would argue a better sequel. So why is it behind? And I'm going to tell you why. And it's expected to be shut out of China like almost every other big Hollywood movie these days, where the first film managed to do $105 million, even though Chinese audiences have a horrible reputation for being a little bit racist. So the fact that it made $100 million shows how much Marvel is loved over there, and also how much the Chinese government hates Marvel these days after that official announcement of Shang-Chi. Were they just offended that Marvel tried to come into their space, or are they that upset about the casting of Simu Liu, who's been very vocal against China? Because ever since, not a single Marvel film has been allowed into the Middle Kingdom. A lot of other movies have been denied access as well, but Disney had a great relationship with China, which is not there anymore. And some movies have slipped through. Now, what happened? What the heck's going on? Well, I'll tell you what happened, what I think happened. The toxicity of our modern world and the identity politics wrapped up in that. What a shame that this has come to Hollywood's shores. It's going everywhere, though. I guess it's really bad. As I said recently, movies and entertainment are supposed to be an escape from this crap, and now it's everywhere. But anyway, also, let's be honest, I think Marvel has oversaturated its own market. And again, with not great product. So it makes a difference. Let's discuss. And again, as always, I'm excited to hear your own thoughts down below. Back in 2018, this to me is one of the most troubling things about the new movie. Back in 2018, the original Black Panther had a pretty even split between Black and Caucasian moviegoers, as you can see, 37 versus 35%. Kumbaya, baby. Everybody went and had a great time. But Wakanda Forever? Whew, look at these numbers. 44% black. That's incredible. That's like almost like as high as the Woman King was even higher, which is also an incredible movie. But anyway, 44% black is almost unheard of. You might be like, but that's fantastic. But, it's not because of the demographic makeup of, the North American box office. That means other people didn't show up to give that larger percentage of points. So 21% Hispanic. You see a little bit of an uptick there. Thanks, Namor and his peoples. But then 20% Caucasian and then 15% Asian other. But that Caucasian drop, that is really disheartening. That's shocking and shows that today's divisiveness has seeped not just into entertainment pundits, but has now trickled down to the audience itself. I can't believe that. Wow. More white people were willing to go see the first Black Panther than the second. And just this past weekend, because I was a little concerned this was going to happen, we were talking about the entertainment space becoming more myopic and an echo chamber for audiences with more choices available, and some of those choices directed at very specific audiences. So as I said, people are becoming less and less interested in hearing other people's stories, which is not only bad for the movie business, but horrible for society. All right, so Black Panther Wakanda Forever's audience also skewed a touch more female. It's just 4%, but when you're adding it up with these other losses, it makes a difference. Now, the first Black Panther had no major white characters. Did Andy Serkis really make that much of a difference? Where people are like, well, Andy Serkis is here. That's ridiculous. And it did have two strong male leads to balance out the very strong female cast. However, with Chadwick Boseman's passing, Marvel made the conscientious decision, which, I think it's fine to focus on the female cast so strongly. But as I said in my review, if only they'd given M'Baku more to do, maybe we wouldn't be looking at these numbers like this. But, they're telling Shuri's story, and it was fantastic. Letitia Wright knocked it out of the park. When I was editing the ticket montage, stay tuned for the ticket montage, whenever I saw her face and Angela Bassett's face and Denai Guerrera, even Florence Kusumba, they look so fierce and amazing on the posters and just so likable and fantastic. Movie stars. They look like movie stars. And I was so happy to see that Marvel did that. It was so great. And so I'm annoyed that if they had just given a slight bit more attention to a male character, we wouldn't have to have this discussion and those women still would have succeeded leading this movie. We'll talk about all this in a moment. Now, obviously, Namor's in the film, although they put him upside down on all the posters. I'm like, why are you putting your one major male character upside down on the bottom? But clearly that still wasn't enough. Now, I made a video, I hope you'll check it out, about my updated ranking of all the MCU movies after 2022, now that Phase 4 is wrapped. And I realized when making the thumbnail that technically the stars of all three MCU movies this year are women. I swapped out Jane Foster for Thor because I wanted my poster frame to be appealing to a larger group. So I stuck Thor in there. But I think having all three films where the major character that was introduced was a woman, it seems like it's a shift in the entire MCU. I hate the MCU slogan. I hate it. I hate it with every fiber of my being as a woman who wants to see strong female characters. And I also get annoyed when Marvel seems to underline that. And I'm just very upset about it. So I think that it's a problem. And then also you had the very female-centric She-Hulk, which was, I think, very off-putting, which aired right before the female-centric Black Panther Wakanda Forever debuted in theaters. Oh, the timing was bad on that. I think Disney overall, and I just watched Strange World, by the way, the embargo, the social media embargo lifts on Monday. But I think that Disney is trying to do too much all at once, which undercuts and dilutes the good that they are trying to do. If Disney would pick one battle per movie and 2 to 3 battles per year, in terms of social justice, I think they would be far more successful, and that would benefit everybody. As I've said, I've been saying this since Birds of Prey. It does not help any special interest group, women included, to have a flop. So when you're talking about characters of color, female characters, LGBT characters, Lightyear didn't do anybody any favors, and that was just a small smooch. These things, and Eternals, that didn't help. You know what moves these things forward? You know what moves these movements forwards? successes. Black Panther Wakanda isn't a failure, but I'm worried. I mean, it's just the opening weekend. If it doesn't get $1 billion, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. I'm nervous. It's got a month till Avatar: The Way of Water. Let's see how far it can get. But Black Panther, the first one in 2018, came out alongside, I think, a much more balanced slate of Disney films. So it didn't seem that Disney had an agenda. It was just telling good stories. And one of those stories happened to be the incredible Black Panther film. And to be clear, Wanda and Shuri are fantastic characters. I love them. I just think it's Jane Foster's Thor that weighs the group down, which is why I took her out of my thumbnail. I mean, the quality of the movie wasn't good. Natalie Portman's performance wasn't good. It was not good. And I do think She-Hulk also inflicted a lot of damage on the MCU. Gosh darn it, I had such high hopes for Jennifer Walters. I hope somebody else can fix her. Come on, Michael Waldron, come in here and tear this show apart. You know, unlike WandaVision, it needs it. And to be fair, I think that the quality of a lot of recent MCU projects across the board, big and small, even Multiverse of Madness, Michael Waldron, has been not good. There's too much, which is hard to keep up with, and then you're not rewarded for the effort because you're like, oh, I did stick it out and watch this, and it wasn't good. I think that when something then really strong, like Black Panther Wakanda Forever comes along, and it got just a scooch lower cinema score than Black Panther, it's a very good movie, I think, unless you know, you're somehow offended by it, which is such a shame. And I think I would hope that some of the people who are offended by the movie are offended because of the groundwork that was unfortunately laid, not because of anything in the movie itself. It's a great movie. But anyway, it's hard to lure the audience back once they've been put off. Hopefully, maybe Black Panther Wakanda Forever will have legs. Do you plan to see it again? I know some of you saw it multiple times this weekend. But we'll see what its second weekend looks like. The first Black Panther fell just 45% in its second weekend. And again, there's about a month until Avatar 2. Hollywood is trying to say the pandemic is still to blame. Oh, we're still recovering from the pandemic. Oh, the film is 3 hours with the trailers. That's crap. That's not true. Business was brisk, with the movie opening on a staggering number of screens, playing every 30 to 45 minutes at some multiplexes. And since when does running time ever hurt a big blockbuster, especially for franchises that are beloved? People want more of what they love. I think people, in fact, were happy when we found out how long the running time was. Premium screens once again did a lot of business and sold out the fastest. Multiplexes really need to spend the money. I know you got to spend money to make money, exhibitors. They're like, oh, we are so low on the money. I'm like, well, spend some to flip your situations around. Right now, 1 or 2 screens per multiplex are premium. They need to flip it around. The majority of screens in a multiplex at this point should be premium. But also, you know, to be fair, someone could also, I think a reasonable counter is that November is not a huge movie-going month. And in fact, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, you know, easily shattered the previous record holder, which was a Hunger Games movie. But you know what? I'll counter that counter. February isn't a huge month either. And the original Black Panther really blew the roof off of that records chart. And it shows, you know, that again, while Black Panther Wakanda Forever's opening is certainly big and respectable, it is not what it should have been. And it is that crack in the MCU stronghold I was talking about. Oh, Feige, I hope you can fix it. I hope you can fix it. I think that it's too much. I think the MCU is expanding too rapidly and it's just too big. It's too big. And I think they have a talent issue, particularly behind the camera. You know, maybe they shouldn't cheap out on behind the cameras. But then when they hire name talent that has a style, they try and smush that out of them because they can't do, it doesn't fit Feige's machine. It's rough. But Wakanda Forever, unfortunately for the movie, it's stuck in this lineup of mediocrity when it is not mediocre. Annoying. All right, as for the rest of the top 10, Black Adam fell a respectable 53% in its fourth weekend. It could have plummeted going up against the onslaught of Wakanda Forever, so that's not bad. And it shows, I think, strong loyalty from DC fans who are sick and tired of being pummeled at the box office by Marvel. So some of you are like, we'll just go see that movie again, gosh darn it. Good for you, you held it up pretty good. And also, I wonder if because Black Adam is mostly male, that kind of was an alternative that was appreciated by some moviegoers to the largely female Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Still, Black Adam is just at 352.2 worldwide. Remember some of you were like, oh, it's going to make 700, 800 million, Grace. Oh, it's definitely going to make 400. Where are you now? I mean, I guess some of you are still screaming into the void, but it ain't going to make 400 million in theaters. I mean, maybe it'll get to maybe it'll just touch it with its baby toe. But not only would that be a huge loss for Warner Brothers Discovery just for Black Adam itself, but here's something embarrassing. That would put it under Fantastic Beasts 3. It's going to come in under Fantastic Beasts 3. And they didn't continue that storyline. I know some of you are like, they're definitely making, to be fair, your numbers are dwindling, but there are still some true believers. They are not, I really would be really surprised if they made another Black Adam, especially since James Gunn and Dwayne Johnson continue to ignore each other. All right, so anyway, Ticket to Paradise is still solid counter-programming, yet losing so many screens to Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and especially almost all of the big screens, so it's only playing on that tiny little screen in the back of the multiplex. Universal sent it to digital just a month after hitting theaters, which I was delighted with. I watched it yesterday. It was okay. All right, so anyway, it was a digital movie in my opinion. All right, Smile crossed, I watched a couple of movies, which I'm going to sneak little reviews in today. Smile crossed the century mark. That's fantastic. That's very impressive for that film. And then interestingly, The Fabelmans opened in just 4 theaters, but posted at only okay per theater average. It's the latest hot awards contender to not have any interest from actual audiences, although that's usually how awards season unfortunately goes. But this is the new Spielberg movie. Well, I saw this movie last week, and I gotta tell you, it's also a streaming movie. This is not for theaters, in my opinion. In fact, I suspect it'll tank in theaters. I also think Strange World is probably gonna tank. But anyway, we're talking about Fabelmans. And while it certainly has interesting and important messages, I don't really think it's best picture material, despite people in the media decreeing that it is. I mean, there are much better movies in play this award season, and I'm gonna shout one out at the end of this video, because it comes out this coming weekend. But anyway, there's when you think about, because people watch Best Picture, they rediscover them, they watch them every year. People trying to think what to watch, and they go and they look at the Best Picture winners, and I'm like, I don't think Fabelmans fits in that lineup, to be honest with you. And I agree with pretty much every Best Picture winner, because I can always see the reason why it won. I'm like, I see the angle. There isn't one on Fabelmans. Also, films about Hollywood rarely connect with general audiences. General audiences don't care how the sausage is made, particularly in their entertainment. And to be honest, having seen the film, I don't know Steven Spielberg any better, having watched his autobiography about a very specific, limited part of his life that doesn't explain at all his mega success in Hollywood. If you talk about how the sausage is made, you still won't know. He doesn't talk. I guess I kind of got the idea why he likes to put people on bikes, but that's how small it is as to any insight as to what I think really interests people about Steven Spielberg. How does he do it? Again and again and again. You will still be left asking that question. And also, Gabriel LaBelle is a very good actor and really very likable and really pops on screen. But he doesn't look anything like Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg's like, this is me. And you're like, oh yeah, you're telling your own story. So I think Fabelmans is actually the best. What I can say about what it succeeds at the best is a prime example of how people should not tell their own stories, because you can't do it effectively or objectively. All right, so over on streaming, as always, we start with the Nielsen ratings, where audiences don't seem to have been too excited about Halloween Ends wherever it was available, because it did only okay in theaters, and now we see it did just okay on Peacock as well. At least it topped the movie chart, but not very strong. You can see how low it is on the overall chart. And interestingly, though, just halfway through October, Hocus Pocus 2 lost some momentum, dropping to 4th place. We thought maybe it would be number 1 or number 2 all month long, but no. And it seems that not only have everybody watched it at the beginning of the month and then walked away, but Netflix's own family Halloween movie, The Curse of Bridge Hollow, which was excellent, debuted this week in the streaming as well, because remember, Nielsen's about a month behind, and it seems to have eaten into Hocus Pocus 2's audience. Back to the overall list, with its season finale, Rings of Power, pulled slightly ahead of House of the Dragon, itself 1 week from its own season finale. So we'll see what House of the Dragon's numbers look like next week. On the originals list, the season finale of She-Hulk also gave it a moderate boost, but not enough to even qualify for the overall chart. Ooh, that's sad. Andor, remember it was at the bottom last week? It rose a few spots. Now it's just at number 7. Still not great, but I gotta tell you, this is the episode, number 6, when the show got really good. So the fact that the show is improving exponentially now from this episode out, And also that Rings of Power is now wrapped and House of the Dragon is done next week. Maybe Andor will shine after that. Disney really did send it to die with this release date. And also ridiculously slow out of the gate opening. What is it, Ferrix or Phoenix? Just, it's not an interesting planet. Over on Netflix for just this past week, Enola Holmes debuted with a solid first place finish. It's not amazing, but it's good. At least it's number one. I loved this movie. With The Good Nurse and School for Good of Evil, both dropping just one spot to make room for Enola. And the first Enola even popped into the top 10 as well, as people apparently made it a double feature weekend, or week, because these are week charts. Enola Holmes 2, by the way, clearly sets up a Sherlock Holmes spin-off, and a very good one at that. I love what they did with the Sherlock Holmes story. So fresh, so exciting. But with Henry Cavill abandoning The Witcher, let's see if Netflix is still interested in being in the Henry Cavill business, and if he's still interested in being in the Netflix business in any capacity. I told you he's looking for feature films with theatrical releases now that he's back as Superman. Maybe, who knows? He says he is. Warner Brothers Discovery won't talk about it. And also, he will also accept, in addition to or instead of a theatrical release, boatloads of cash. So that's why Witcher Season 4 fell apart. And we'll see what happens. I think he'd be crazy not to make this Enola Holmes spinoff. It's incredible, and it makes me... Now, I mean, I thought The Witcher kind of wasn't very good with Season 2, so I'm off the Witcher bandwagon, but I see how you feel. I would be upset if this Henry Cavill Sherlock Holmes movie didn't materialize. It's like, wow, he's walking away from these home runs. It's crazy. He should have just demanded new writers on The Witcher. I mean, and he did make Season 3, so I don't really think it was a quality issue if he came back after 2. All right, with Netflix shows, Manifest Season 4 did deliver a number one debut for Netflix, but not a particularly strong one, which is weird because everyone was going crazy over Manifest, but then here it is, finally the new season, and fizzles out. Maybe it split the weekly audience with Inside Man, which also debuted right behind Manifest. It really does look like a split. On iTunes, here's Ticket to Paradise, easily debuting at number one, with audiences delighted to be able to watch the recent theatrical release so soon on streaming. While Amsterdam made a smaller debut at number 5, which it deserves. That movie is not good. Although, very surprisingly political. They were like, surprise, it's a political movie. I mean, it was pretty good. It had its moments, but, it's not good. You can also watch Terrifier 2 on digital now, but it's after Halloween, so it only debuted at number 7. And then Paradise City is classic straight-to-video fare with Bruce Willis, John Travolta, that's John Travolta, and Stephen Dorff getting paid and making no apologies for it, even if you had to watch that. And then there's also Medieval with Ben Foster. I'm a big Ben Foster fan, but he's making a few too many of this type of movie. They're all starting to seem the same. I saw the one recently, I forget what service it was on, where he played the boxer, and I liked that quite a bit. But, come on, Ben, get back in the game. Maybe he can't, which is too bad, because he's very talented. And then Illumination's The Grinch is the first Christmas movie of the year to pop into the top 10. I love that movie. I think it's great. It's really, really strong. I love both Grinch movies. I watch them both every year. But I do have a special place for the Illumination's The Grinch, and it usually is the first Christmas movie that I watch of the year myself. How about you? What's the first Christmas movie that you watch every season? As for this coming week, Black Panther Wakanda Forever should easily hold on to the top spot, with Only She Said going against it in wide release. This is the movie that you should see. Wow! And again, I'm sorry to see that people are not interested in other people's stories, because some people might write this off as some kind of women's movie. It's phenomenal. It's incredible. This is Best Picture material. If you liked Spotlight, you will love She Said. It's incredible stuff. It's also about journalism, women in the workplace, just sexual harassment in general, and it's also very much about Hollywood. I mean, it's pretty crazy to see Harvey Weinstein, the subject of the kind of shocking expose awards fair he used to produce himself. And they handled the Harvey stuff incredibly well, the way they kind of teased him only. But yet his presence was very much in the film. Great movie. Incredible. That is deserved. I haven't seen all the movies this year, but that's a strong Best Picture contender in my opinion. Then The Menu and Timothée Chalamet's Hot Cannibal movie go into limited release. If Timothée Chalamet can sell that cannibal movie, I will be impressed. I still remember the trailer when he was like, "I'm a cannibal. Do you still like me?" And the female lead was like, oh yeah, sure, totally. Hilarious stuff. All right, as for streaming movies, on Wednesday, Florence Pugh, she stars in The Wonder for Netflix, which is technically an awards film too. Thursday sees the return of A Christmas Story with finally, decades later, a sequel hitting HBO Max. Nobody's really talking about it though, so I don't really know if it's going to hit. Also, this is quite the nostalgia week. Disney Plus is going to blow Christmas Story out of the water. Wait till you see what Disney Plus has. Friday is a big day. Spirited hits Apple TV after a week in some theaters. Could you find it? One of you said it was the Regal Surprise Movie of the Week and that you thought it was really good, so that's exciting. Slumberland debuts on Netflix, and Jason Momoa has been using that press tour to tease DC stuff. Documentary Mickey the Story of a Mouse and Disenchanted debut on Disney Plus. Disenchanted should be a juggernaut. I'm a little nervous about it because screeners don't go out till Wednesday. That's awfully close to release, but I thought the last trailer was quite strong. Then as for series this week, the latest season of Yellowstone starts tonight on Paramount Network. What the heck is that? That's still around? I thought it was funny. Tyler Sheridan was like, this is not Red State Game of Thrones. And he managed to annoy everybody with that statement because people on the blue side were like, yeah, right. And then people on the red side were like, are you disavowing us? So I think Tyler Sheridan just shouldn't have said anything. Anyway. Unless he finds he's not getting work. He's making like a billion Yellowstone series. He's a factory himself these days. He also just debuted that Sylvester Stallone show, right? Whatever, which nobody's talking about. All right, so anyway, I'm not even talking about it until now. Tim Allen is back in at least one Disney project with the Santa Clauses, dropping 2 episodes starting this Wednesday. And on Thursday, the final season of Dead to Me. That's been so long, but I do like that show, so I'll circle back for that, I think. But right around the holidays, weird. And then anyway, also 1899 from the creators of Dark, that German show so many of you swear by. Well, this is a multilingual show where they speak many languages, trying to, I think, expand their audience even further. Well, those 2 things drop on Netflix, along with Fleischman is in Trouble over on Hulu. So that's this week's movie math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And how do you feel about Black Panther Wakanda Forever's opening weekend box office? Good enough? Or do you think that it could have been better? And what do you think of the current state of the MCU? Cracks in the foundation, or is everything just fine? But one thing that's certain is that so many of you went to see Black Panther Wakanda Forever this weekend and had a fabulous time and sent me so many wonderful pictures. That's right. It's the return of the movie math ticket montage. And it was so wonderful, just absolutely wonderful to see so many of you across the globe going to the movies.